Hey everybody, Steve from the Graphite Lab here. I hope y'all are doing well. Today I want to show you how you can completely build your own dashboard that shows you whatever metrics are important to you, shows you whatever reports you'd like to see, and how you can create these and assign them so that different people, when they open ServiceTitan, are given an entirely different bird's eye view of the business. Let's begin, shall we? So starting at the top, this is it's called a modular dashboard in here. It's the familiar ServiceTitan dashboard you're probably used to when you open this screen, right? It's undergone some facelifts and some changes over the years, but largely the purpose has stayed the same. It's here to give a bird's eye view to a business owner of any aspect of their business, right? From pure revenue numbers, we move down into technician performance, move into calls, move into your marketing, see on a heat map where you're doing the most business. Now, keep in mind, I should note, this is a dummy account of my own. I don't do any real business out of it, so you're going to see some pretty low metrics. I certainly hope yours don't reflect the same way mine do on here. The neat thing, though, and a little known feature with this dashboard, if you click this guy, you can change it to whatever you'd like. I've got a couple dummy ones I've already built. For example, a sales coordinator dashboard, right? Let's say this was my role. These are the only things that I'm looking to see. So let's give me some year-to-date numbers here, and you can see how this populates sales per business unit. Hover over, great. We scroll on down. You'll see some familiar items here in KPIs. And then once we move it far enough, we can even get custom reports built into this as well. Now, the rabbit hole here goes very, very, very deep. I would highly recommend, if this is something that you're into, please reach out, set up some time with us here, and we can get into exactly what you want your dashboards to hold and show you how to build them. But just for sake of example, and let me move my face over in a second here, I'm going to create a new dashboard. And let's make one here for call center management, right? And we're just going to start at the top with a brand spanking new one. You'll see here, it's a fairly bare bones, user-friendly screen. What you'll see with different sections, right? We'll play around with that in a little bit. But first thing here, we're just going to add a module, and we can pick in here, do we want, first things first, show me a custom report breakdown, right? Just essentially porting a custom report that you have developed into the main screen when you open up ServiceTitan. Is that report the first thing I want to see? The cool thing is you're not just limited to that. You can also go through, create the different dials, create the different graphs and metrics that you want to see up in front of you. So while we do have reports, we also have KPIs. Think of this like whenever you're looking at it, you'll have total revenue, you'll have total sales, you'll have customer satisfaction score, just those big, bold numbers that show up on the screen. That is your KPIs. Visualization, though, is where we're going to be picking up first. On here, this is where we create our charts. So let's say, for sake of example, right, if I am creating this for a call center manager, let's play around with this donut. Okay, so we'll say here, well, maybe I'll name it in a second. Let's first go in, and I am going to largely, by the way, as you're selecting a template, these should be pretty familiar to you if you're familiar with custom reporting. These templates are based out of the same data points you have on that module. So I'm going to base this on office performance. This is how I can get sort of report cards for my CSRs. And this dimension that I'm going to pick here, right? I'm going to say, let's go by name. And what do I want to measure? So I'm going to show based on the name of my CSR and what metric am I trying to show here? Calls taken, and we can just say, all right, show me a mass of calls taken and who is making up the lion's share of this. Let's do that just for sake of example. Let's say I got 4,063 calls. CSR number 2 brought in 20% of those, and you can just see on here, all right, from a pure effort standpoint, who's outpacing the rest, who's taking the most calls. Now I can see CSR 6, I may need to just go over and say, hey, what can we do to get this number up, right? Gives you a good idea of coaching opportunity. If this looks good, and by the way, I can change this out to say, show me averages. Sum is what we're going to be working with here. For a name, I will say percentage of calls taken by CSR. I'm going to hit add, and just like that, this is now available to me. And as you can see here, this is not going to show us the data live as we're looking at it in here. Once you save this, it will inherit what that example looked like and populate it with your real-time data. Now, I want to just keep adding, right? So I can add another module in here. Let's say this time I want to have a bar graph that shows me booking percentages for each CSR. So I'm again going to go visualization. I'm a fan of just a simple bar chart. I don't need anything crazy. Let's go vertical for this one. Why not? Right? And I will say call booking percentage per CSR. Now, once again, I prefer Office Performance because that is the template that I would use as a custom report, right, to get this sort of information. Office Performance, what is going to be my X axis, right? Going horizontal here. Just give me the names of each of my CSRs. Now, what do I want to measure? What are these bars going to indicate vertically? My Y axis. And for this, inbound booking rate. We'll keep it simple, right? You'll see here how this populates. If this is all looking good, add that. And we now have this here. Now, as we keep populating these, we can grab them, move them up here so that these stack up next to each other neatly simply by grabbing this guy and floating it around. So that is at a bird's eye view how you put together visualizations, right? And you can create your different bar charts. You can create your pie charts. It opens up quite a few avenues for you just on that. And this, keep in mind, we're doing this just for call centers. This is anything you can measure in custom reports, you can build right in here as well. It's just a matter of getting used to the flow of, hey, what am I trying to measure? Now let's filter it down a little bit and see how I want to separate the pie slices, so to speak, or how do I want these bars indicated, measuring what vertically. It's the trickiest part of this, gang, is getting a hold of whenever they ask me for this access or they're asking me based around blank, getting a hold of that. That is going to be the part that requires a little bit of practice or a little bit of coaching. So let's say now I want to add KPIs. Just these numbers that I don't want to go fishing for, I want them to spit them out at me, big, bold numbers. How are we looking? Right? I'm going to go to add module one more time. And this time, instead of my visualization, because I've got my bar graphs and everything lined up as I like them now, I'm going to go KPI. And similarly, say it with me, Office Performance, because that's where I would go to pull these numbers if I were building a custom report. What you want to go to now, let's say, what kind of things would I want to find out of this? Let's go calls taken, right? Just to mask how many calls have come through. Let's also go percentage booked from inbound totals by employee, calls taken, percentage booked from inbound total. Let's go outbound calls booked. Why not, right? And converted jobs booked by employee. How many of these have actually become valuable jobs that have crossed our thresholds? Add. Now I can lay these out in whatever kind of method I'd like. I can swap these out to show me just sums versus average, right? It will default to the most likely method, so you don't really have to tweak these as often as you may think. Say I want to reorder them though, right? Just as simple as grabbing these dots, dragging it along like we did with our pie charts and bar graphs up top. I'm gonna hit add, and now here are my big bold numbers. If I want to tweak anything, if I want to filter it down, by all means, you can go through here and say, hey, I want these dates to line up a little differently. If you wanted it to only show certain business units, you may. You can go in here to settings and tweak this thing one more time, right? If it doesn't quite line up the way you imagined it would. So that is adding KPIs. You're just essentially saying, pull one metric off this report that matters to me and put it onto our view. Now, you may also be thinking like, yeah, this is all well and good, but that standard dashboard gives me some pretty stellar stuff for my call center management. At that point, we can capture things that are on that standard dashboard that you're used to. You just go here to dashboard modules, and on here, these are some familiar faces, right? We will take call metric, do call metrics, populate this one, add another one, let's go unbooked calls, and we're going to add agent scorecard as well. Boom, boom, boom. And just like this, right? And I'll make these things pretty. I'll just drag these around. Let's go move these up so that that has a familiar face to it. Our agent scorecards will show down here. And as you can see, this thing is coming together. I've now got the greatest hits from the actual dashboard that ServiceTitan built for us. And I've got some pretty good stuff that I wanted to see. Now, let's say we do have a report that we want to be able to really analyze, right? We pull it every day. We comb through it. I want that report on my starting page. On your dashboard here, we'll go add a module one more time. We'll hit into a report. Now, this is where things take a wee bit of a turn, is that you do want to have a custom report built in ServiceTitan to pull from. If you don't have a custom report generated within that module, right, within your go to reports, hit create new, or just scout it to make sure that the report you're looking to implement here exists, you're not going to find it. So if I'm in here, I will just go office performance one more time. I created that right over here. I'll just pluck that report out. Right? If I wanted to change description there at any point, I could. And now I have a report set right in here. Now I've got the greatest hits from ServiceTitan. I've got my own KPIs. I've got pie charts and bar graphs, and everything I wanted is now showing up in here, right? Let's say at this stage of the game, by the way, I want to add a completely different section to this report and just say, hey, I manage the call center, but I also run our dispatchers. At this point, I can just title this section here, dispatching, right? In this section here, call centers. And now I can have as many different sections as I would like in here. The standard dashboard, the way that I like to think of this, standard dashboard being broken down by revenue, by technician performance, by call center, by agent performance, by marketing. That's your breakdown when you're looking at the standard dashboard, the flow of it. Keep that in mind as you're building sections, unless you are looking to keep this dash for one very focused reason or one focused role in your company. You will want to separate, like add a new section and then start building within that, right? So that this way you can break it down. If someone is managing call center and the dispatchers, they're able to go through and do both. And essentially, gang, it's just rinse, wash, repeat. You do the same thing that we did above down here. Now, just some last little things. I will, of course, save this. Make sure you're saving your changes as you do it. The last thing you need, especially for my Mac using friends out there, you go to like slide along this thing and you accidentally back out of the whole screen, you lose it all. On here though, I can now adjust my share access to say, do I want particular root users to have this, or just go by role, right? And say, all right, if you are an admin, you get access to this. If you're a general office user, you get access to this. Or you could manage by individual users and say, all right, this one, Amy's going to have this dashboard. This is just for Amy. I'm building this thing. Save those changes. And now you've got Amy on this dashboard. Now, last thing I wanted to show you here, the all important piece, right, is instead of every day when you log in, this being your home, what we want to do is show, how can I make the other one? All you got to do down here, right? If I go back to this call center, we've got this little bookmark. That's going to set it as my default. It's going to replace my current dashboard. So every time that I open ServiceTitan now, right? Like if I go to the schedule tab, whenever I go back over here, falls right, and it is, we're back to our call center management dashboard. This will be the case. Anytime you close and reopen ServiceTitan, this is going to be your new landing spot. I know this was a lot. And I'm aware that there's a lot more tinkering that can be done, especially if you're looking to build this out for sales and technician performance. Suddenly the landscape opens up a ton. Please feel free. Set some time aside with us. I would love to chat with you about this, kind of coach you up on how we can build these dashboards for you. Or if you're the kind of person that just likes to get in and tinker around with it a little bit, by all means, it's you'll be able to get the hang of this thing pretty quickly once you understand the endpoints and how these charts are pulling this data. But yeah, that is a wrap. I appreciate y'all hanging with me for this one, and I will talk to you next time.